All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I wanted to make a video sharing some intentions that I have for this YouTube channel. And I'll share a bit of the history of how it came about. I'm going to try, just let me set a timer here. And I don't want to make this more than 10 minutes. And I don't like to use edits in these videos because I think that's kind of cheating. Might be how some people want to make videos, but it's not how I want to make them. So not going to take more than 10 minutes here today, just to share some of my intentions for this channel and where I hope it'll take me and where I hope it'll take you if you're interested in following along. I started a newsletter. That was the first thing I tried because I wanted a way to stay connected with people about the topics that I'm interested in. And I realized quite quickly, and I've shared this in the most recent edition of the newsletter, I'm recording this on March 6, 2024, that as I was writing, I realized, and I love writing, but I love writing for the purpose of articulating my own ideas, articulating things that I haven't necessarily articulated before. And I think that's one of the ways I can be valuable to those of you that are watching, is that I don't think I'm coming up with anything new here, but if I have a skill, it's the ability to synthesize all kinds of information that I consume and articulate things that I think a lot of us feel, but don't necessarily have words for right away. And if there's something I've put a lot of time into, it's doing that. The topics I'm interested in, I mentioned it in my first video, are facing reality. These aren't really topics, they're practices. Facing reality, engaging in dialogue, seeing the big picture, and braving conflict. If there are 4 things that I think the world needs more of from all of us, if there are 4 things that I think each of us could do more of to make the lives of the people around us better, it's these ones. These are the ones that I've focused on, especially during the last 3-4 years of my life. And it's the one where I've seen the greatest transformation, the greatest results in terms of how my relationships are going, in terms of how my inner life goes, in terms of the kinds of experiences and the kinds of impact I have in the work that I do. And frankly, it just helps me from spinning my wheels a lot. I was in a lot of conflict 4 or 5 years ago. I wasn't seeing reality clearly. I wasn't in the conversations that I wanted to be in. I wasn't having the conversations that I needed to have with the people in my life. And I didn't have a big enough view of reality. I was very focused on my own world. And when I get stuck still, those are the places that I fall back. Those are the things that I notice have gone awry. It's when I'm not doing one or more of those things. And those are just really lenses or practices through which I see the world. And I took some time away from, I mentioned in the last video that I've spent a lot of time working in political contexts. And I really stepped back from all of it to focus on mastering those practices. And it felt like life was handing me more than enough material for learning about how to do those things well, that I didn't need to have a professional context in which to exercise them. So I started playing more music as my sort of primary passion project, journaling for a couple of hours every day, trying to get my mind clear on, well, what would my life look like if I was better at those things. And I've always been an educator. I've always been drawn to roles that involve teaching others, from being a swim instructor as a teenager to running political education programs for most of the last, it's not the last 10 years anymore, but for a good chunk of time in my, mid-20s, early 30s. That's a role that I've been drawn to, making podcasts that explain the way government works, that sort of thing. That was the work that made up my life for a good long time. And I stepped back from all of it, really, to focus on my on these practices and cleaning up my life. I had a lot of physical clutter. I had a lot of relationship clutter. And I don't just mean specific individuals, but the energy I was putting into my relationships with people was cluttered and perhaps misleading. Perhaps a good way of describing it would be just inconsistent. I was showing up in inconsistent ways. Not that I think these are unique things to me, but I had come to a realization of the challenges that it created in my own life and made a decision over and over again that I wanted to improve. So if there's an offering in this channel, it's like, I want to help you. If these are interesting, if you're compelled by what I've shared so far, and if it's resonated with experiences in your own life, I'm making this channel to help people who are in a place that's corresponding to where a younger version of myself was, or people who are on a parallel path, who are learning these things at the same time as I am and are looking for fellow travelers, because it sure doesn't feel like there's a lot of us. It sure doesn't feel like there's ample company with people who have similar levels of commitments to seeing clearly, to seeing a bigger picture, to engaging constructively in conflict, and to having meaningful dialogue. The state of the world is like, I don't even know where to start. It seems like it's gotten so much worse in the last 4-5 years than it was, and it was already pretty bad. I remember I turned on the radio in late 2019, and I didn't catch the earlier parts of the program, but at the moment I turned on the radio, the narrator of the program, it was a woman's voice, came on and said, "So 2016 will go down in history as the first worst year ever." And I've thought of that like once a day ever since, and I probably should try to think about it a bit less, lest it become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But it does feel like that has been what's happened in terms of how many people are suffering, in terms of how dire the crises around us look, and how inescapable the situation that humanity finds itself in seems to be. That's what it looks like. But I have to say, after the life I've lived for the last 3 years, I have a lot of optimism about our chances as a species. And I have a lot of optimism for the possibility that a good life is possible in this world. And not just a good life for an individual, but a good life for, I think it starts at the level of relationship, that good relationships are possible, that good communities, good neighborhoods are possible, good towns and cities are possible, and a good global future is within reach. And, you know, I get goosebumps when I think about what has to happen in the next, in the coming decades, and specifically the decade ahead. It just seems like, or the year ahead, it seems like there is a lot at stake. And I am really convinced that change and transformation happens at the level of the individual. It always has to first. There's no kinds of change or transformation that we should want, that any of us want, that don't first happen at the level of the individual. Systems don't change, but for the individuals in them. And the mechanics of that are something that I think become obvious as you start a path of inner transformation, or reinvest in the path of inner transformation and evolution and development. As humans, I think the gift that we have is that we can evolve within a lifetime. Genetics is the science of evolution for the most part. I know this is changing with the more we learn, but genetics, if we listen to the stories we were told when we learned about evolution and learned about genetics in school, we end up believing that evolution only happens across long spans of time, over multiple generations. But there's mimetics too, and we think of the word memes and we think of, these little square images that show up on our phones that are how we share jokes with each other. And that is a kind of meme. Going over the 10-minute mark because it feels like we're getting somewhere. That is a kind of meme, but what a meme is really it's evolution through ideas. Genetics is evolution through biological coding, through the code that builds our hardware, and mimetics is evolution through software. It's through developing new ways of using the hardware that we have, new ways of thinking about the reality around us or modeling the reality around us so that we can solve the problems that are emerging within our lifetimes. And so that we can succeed and pass those ideas not just down to our kids, but across to our peers, to people who are encountering similar problems as we are, to people that are encountering similar challenges who have been on similar paths. And I think one of the things that happens on the evolutionary journey, on the mimetic evolutionary journey, when you're adopting and integrating new ideas into your life is, well, a couple things is you realize that it's not a willful act in the sense of like you have to use your kind of frontal cortex to conceive of, well, where should I go next? No, it just becomes obvious where to go next because as you integrate new ways of being into your life, say you wake up one day and decide, I don't want to be in destructive conflicts with the people in my life anymore. Two things happen. One, you find ways, you make opportunities for not being in destructive conflicts with the people in your life anymore. But you get a new set of problems. If you want to not be in destructive conflicts with the people in your life anymore, a new set of problems emerge that only apply to people who have made that commitment. And problems aren't bad, but that's a new set of problems that you have to overcome and encounter if you want to know what they are, and keep following along because I'm sure we're going to discuss them here. So that's one of the things that I can't imagine not continuing to want to talk about and want to dialogue about with you and with the guests we bring onto this channel. So my hope for having this channel, my hope for what value you get out of staying tuned to this channel and subscribing and, hitting the notification bell is that there's mimetic drift. I don't know if that's the best word for it, but to share ideas, to share ideas that have worked for the kinds of problems that I'm interested in, that I've spoken about already here, and that I'm interested in helping you overcome. If these are things that are relevant for you in your life now, and if they're not, then, keep scrolling and find a different channel. So if I could leave you with one message, and it may be a bit of a bold one for an early video on this channel, but if I could leave you with one message, it's that there is no other way out of the crises we're facing than through the path of personal transformation and evolution. And that is one that I think all of us at some point will be asked to subscribe to. And it doesn't have to be through this channel. If what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, then it probably can't be through this channel. But if what I'm saying does resonate with you, then I hope you'll stick around. I hope you'll follow along. I hope you'll subscribe, because I have visions of what it's like when more of us live in reality, when more of us live in truth, when more of us can navigate conflict gracefully, when more of us can be in dialogue with one another about things that aren't made up, about things that transcend small talk, when more of us can see a big picture and see the beauty and majesty and miracle of all that is in this world. And it just, to me, seems like the most exciting journey to be on. And each time I meet somebody who's also on that journey, and maybe they have different language for it, they often have different language for it, but once we start talking, it becomes clear that it's like, yeah, we're moving in the same direction. And if you can, prior to this, it would have been like, if I met somebody else who was a musician or a guitar player or was interested in politics or any of the topics that I was interested in at a party, it's like, that was exciting. Like, that was a good time. That was worth going to that party, or worth, going to whatever event it was that I met them at. But now it's like, if you meet somebody who's on a journey that you're on, it's not just an interest that, oh yeah, I can have a conversation about that. But it's like, we're moving in the same direction. We have the same vision, and we've kind of surrendered the thing that makes it painful, or at least we're working on surrendering the thing that makes it painful to work with other people, which is, the commitment to always being right, the commitment to focusing on what we're focusing on, like not being in genuine dialogue or focusing only on the small talk, and not being willing to walk through fire or walk through conflict with people. If you meet people who are heading in the same direction, who have those capacities, boy, that's exciting. Anyway, I hope you follow along.